The council chamber stretched so far that its walls disappeared into a soft blue glow. Captain Do-yoon Kim stood in the center of the massive room, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, floating platforms held representatives from hundreds of alien species. Some looked like birds with scales. Others resembled walking plants or creatures made of crystal. They all stared at him with eyes that showed no friendship. Commander Hae-jin Park stood 3 steps behind Do-yoon, her hand resting near her sidearm. She had counted 47 security officers from other species positioned around the room. Her own team of 6 human guards waited by the entrance. The odds did not worry her. She had seen worse. High Arbiter Velmore sat on the highest platform, his silver feathers catching the light as he moved. He was old, maybe 300 years, if the reports were correct. His species had led the council for longer than humans had been building cities. Humanity has been granted the honor of faster-than-light travel for 50 of your years, Velmore said. His translator made his words sound cold and formal. In that brief time, you have claimed 17 star systems. These systems fall within protected zones, established by council law 3,000 years ago. Trade Minister Woo Jin Lee shifted slightly beside Do-yoon. He had reviewed the council laws, all 9 million pages of them. Nowhere did it clearly define these protected zones. The laws contradicted themselves on purpose, Woo Jin believed. It gave the council power to claim anything they wanted. The council has been patient with your youth, Velmore continued. But patience has limits. We require the following. First, humanity will stop all expansion immediately. Second, you will abandon 3 colonies you have built in protected space. Third, you will accept a probationary period of 200 years under council supervision. A reptilian creature on a lower platform hissed in approval. That was Councillor Thexara, representing a species that had tried to expand once and been crushed by council fleets. He clearly enjoyed watching another species receive the same treatment. Do-yoon had expected these demands. Earth's intelligence services had predicted this meeting would happen eventually. The council followed patterns. They allowed new species to develop FTL technology, watched them expand, then forced them to submit when they grew strong enough to matter, but not strong enough to resist. It had worked for 3,000 years. Woo Jin passed Do-yoon a data slate. The screen showed economic projections. If humanity accepted these terms, they would fall behind every other council species. Their colonies would be absorbed into council territory within a generation. Earth itself would become dependent on council trade and technology. In 300 years, humans would be servants, not partners. You have 7 standard days to accept these terms, Velmore said. Failure to comply will result in economic sanctions. Continued defiance will require more serious measures. The chamber fell silent. Every species that had stood where Do-yoon stood had agreed to council terms. Some negotiated better deals, shaving years off their probation or keeping 1 more colony. But they all submitted. The council's military controlled 70,000 star systems. Their economy connected 800 species. Their laws had been established before Earth had invented the wheel. Do-yoon looked at Hae-jin. She gave him the smallest nod. His team was ready for any outcome. He glanced at Woo Jin, who looked nervous but determined. Then, Do-yoon turned his eyes to High Arbiter Velmore. The human delegation has heard the council's position, Do-yoon said. His voice was calm and clear. We appreciate the time and attention you have given this matter. Velmore's feathers settled. Good, Do-yoon thought. The Arbiter expected submission. However, Do-yoon continued, humanity must respectfully decline your terms. The chamber exploded with noise. Alien voices mixed into a wall of sound that the translators could not separate. Velmore rose from his seat, his wings spreading wide. Thexara roared, something that made his platform shake. Other counselors shouted at their assistants or into communication devices. Hae-jin's hand moved to her weapon, but she did not draw it. The human guards at the entrance formed a tighter formation. Woo Jin's face went pale, but he held his ground. Decline? Velmore's voice cut through the chaos. No species declines a council ultimatum. Then humanity will be the first, Doyun said. You do not understand the consequences, Velmore said. His voice carried a threat that needed no translation. Your species is young. You have 17 colonies. We control systems numbering in the tens of thousands. You have no allies. You have no protection. If you refuse the council, you refuse the galaxy itself. Doyun smiled, just a little. We understand perfectly, High Arbiter. Humanity thanks the council for their offer. Our answer is no. Thexara was screaming now, demanding military action. Other counselors called for immediate sanctions. A few, Doyun noticed, stayed quiet. Those were the ones Earth's diplomats would contact later. 7 days, Velmore repeated. You have 7 days to reconsider. We strongly suggest you use them wisely. We will give your suggestion the consideration it deserves, Doyun said. He turned to leave, and his delegation followed. As they walked toward the exit, Heejin leaned close. That went well. Better than expected, Doyun replied. They are confused. That gives us time. Time for what? Woojin asked, his voice shaking slightly. For them to panic, Doyun said. And for us to be ready when they do. The human delegation left the council chamber. Behind them, the galaxy's oldest government tried to understand what had just happened. In 3,000 years, they had never heard the word no. They would learn to recognize it soon enough. The emergency session began 3 hours after the human delegation departed. High Arbiter Velmore stood before the assembled council, his silver feathers dulled with stress. Around him, counselors from 800 species argued. The chamber that usually maintained perfect order had descended into chaos. Sanctions, Velmore declared, trying to regain control. We will implement immediate economic sanctions. Cut off all trade routes to human space. Freeze their accounts in council banks. They will submit within weeks. Counselor Urix, an insectoid whose species had served on the council for 900 years, raised one of her 6 arms. High Arbiter. Our economic analysts report that human colonies are self-sufficient. They trade with each other more than with council species. Sanctions will inconvenience them, not cripple them. Then we increase pressure, Thexara hissed. Send the fleets. Blockade their worlds. Force them to see reason. Several counselors chirped agreement. Others remained silent. Velmore noticed the silence. It worried him more than the shouting. Before we discuss military options, Counselor Urix said carefully, perhaps we should review what we know about human capabilities. In a private research station orbiting a dead moon, Dr. Minho Kang watched the emergency session through a secured feed. He was human. But the council believed he was simply a xenobiologist, studying their cultural practices. They had given him access to almost everything. Never suspecting, he reported directly to Earth's intelligence service. Minho activated his encrypted transmitter and began recording. Report 17. The council is fragmenting. They have never encountered resistance to their ultimatum protocol. Current estimates suggest they will attempt military intimidation within 72 hours. He pulled up another screen showing data he had collected over the past 3 years. The council's military structure looked impressive on paper. 70,000 systems defended by hundreds of thousands of ships. But Minho had learned something important. Those fleets had never fought a real war. The council's military victories came against 2 types of enemies. First, pre-FTL civilizations that had no defense against orbital bombardment. Second, divided species who fought among themselves more than they fought the council. The council had never faced a unified, technologically advanced opponent who was ready for them. Minho sent his report to Earth and copied it to Ambassador So-Yeon Yoon, who operated from a small office in the council's diplomatic quarter. Most people thought she handled minor trade disputes. In reality, she coordinated Earth's entire intelligence network within council space. Soyeon received Minho's report and smiled. Everything was proceeding as expected. She opened a secure channel to a location far from Council space. Admiral Jiwon Choi stood on the bridge of the battleship Han River, flagship of Earth's Third Fleet. The fleet held position at the edge of human-controlled space, exactly where Council scouts could see them. Jiwon wanted to be seen. She wanted the Council to know that humanity was ready. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving Ambassador Yoon's update. The Council is moving toward military options." "Good," Jiwon said. "Inform all ships to maintain defensive positions. Make sure our movements are visible on long-range sensors. I want the Council to see exactly where we are." "Should we power up weapons systems?" her tactical officer asked. "No," Jiwon said. "Cold start only. We defend if attacked, but we give them no excuse to claim we were the aggressors." Back in the Council chamber, Velmore was losing control of the session. A counselor from an aquatic species, Pelvax, had obtained disturbing information about human preparations. "High Arbiter," Pelvax said, his voice bubbling through the translator. "They have positioned defensive fleets at every major colony. They have constructed automated defense platforms that our sensors barely detect. They have established communication networks we cannot intercept." "They are a young species," Velmore insisted. 50 years of FTL travel. We have 3,000 years of experience." "Experience in what?" Pelvax asked. "When did we last fight a war against an equal opponent? Our military tactics are designed to overwhelm primitives, not to engage with prepared adversaries." The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to say it, but everyone understood. The Council's power rested on reputation, not capability. For 3,000 years, species had submitted because they believed the Council was invincible. But what if the Council's military was simply untested? Counselor Urix clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should consider why humanity prepared so thoroughly. They knew this confrontation would come. They planned for it. What else have they planned?" In a dimly lit office, Ambassador Soyeon Yoon met with 3 counselors who had requested private conversations. They represented species that had grown tired of Council overreach. Species that had been told to limit their expansion, restrict their technology, and accept their place in the galactic order. "Humanity is offering an alternative," Soyeon said quietly. "If the Council forces military action, we will defend ourselves. But we do not want war. We want freedom. Your species could have that same freedom." One of the counselors, representing a species that had been forced to abandon 12 colonies centuries ago, leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Wait and watch," Soyeon said. "When the Council moves against us, you will see what prepared resistance looks like. Then decide if you want to remain under Council authority or if you want something different." The counselors left separately, careful not to be seen together. Soyeon sent another report to Earth. 17 species had made similar private contacts. The Council's authority was already cracking. The 7-day deadline approached. Doyoon Kim received daily messages from the Council, each one more threatening than the last. He read them, filed them, and sent the same response each time. Humanity's position remains unchanged. On the 6th day, Woojin Lee received economic data that confirmed what they had predicted. Council sanctions had affected human trade by less than 3%. The colonies continued operating normally. Earth's economy remained stable. The Council's primary leverage had failed. On the 7th day, High Arbiter Velmore convened another session. Half the Council wanted to negotiate. A quarter wanted immediate war. The rest remained paralyzed by indecision. Counselor Thexara had had enough of waiting. He had commanded his species' military forces before joining the Council. He knew how to act when others hesitated. Without full authorization, he sent orders to a battle fleet stationed near human space. 300 warships received their commands. Target: the human colony of New Busan. Objective: Demonstrate Council power. Rules of engagement. Disable colonial infrastructure. Force surrender. The fleet entered FTL space, heading toward humanity's newest colony. The attack would begin in 18 hours. On the Han River, Admiral Ji-won Choi received an alert from Captain Gina Nam, whose scout ship had been monitoring Council fleet movements. The message was brief and clear. Council battle fleet inbound to New Busan. ETA 18 hours. Configuration suggests attack posture. Ji-won looked at the tactical display. New Busan was 3 light-years from her current position. The Third Fleet could reach it in 16 hours if they pushed their engines. But they would not need to rush. Send a message to New Busan Defense Command, Ji-won ordered. Tell them they have incoming visitors. Activate all protocols. Show our guests what humanity has prepared. She turned to her crew. Set course for New Busan. Standard approach speed. We are not racing to a fight. We are arriving to clean up after one. Her officers understood. The battle would be over before the Third Fleet arrived. The question was not whether humanity would win. The question was whether the Council would learn from losing. Envoy Dae-hyun Shin sat in a small cafe on a neutral trading station, drinking something that almost tasted like coffee. Across from him sat 3 aliens, who officially did not exist at this meeting. They represented species that belonged to the Council, but had grown tired of Council rules. Your Captain Kim made quite an impression, one of them said. She resembled a large cat with 6 legs and spoke through a translator that gave her voice a musical quality. No one refuses the Council. Someone had to be first, Dae-hyun replied. The question is whether anyone will be second. The 3 aliens looked at each other. They had traveled to this station in secret, using private ships and false identifications. If the Council discovered this meeting, there would be consequences. But they had come anyway. What happens when the Council sends its fleets? Another asked. He was thin and tall, his skin covered in patterns that changed color as he spoke. Your 17 colonies against 70,000 Council systems. The mathematics are clear. Dae-hyun smiled. Mathematics assume all variables are equal. They rarely are. He slid a data chip across the table. This contains information about human defensive capabilities. Review it. Share it with others who might be interested. Then make your own decisions. The third alien, who had remained silent until now, picked up the chip with a tentacle. Why share this? Why not keep your advantages secret? Because we are not trying to beat the Council, Dae-hyun said. We are trying to change it. That requires allies, not secrets. The 3 aliens left separately, carrying information that would spread through unofficial channels to dozens of species. Dae-hyun finished his drink and sent a message to Captain Kim. Seeds planted. Now we wait for them to grow. Endon, on a research vessel hidden in an asteroid field, scientist Sun-woo Park reviewed the final tests of humanity's defensive network. The system had been designed based on a simple principle. You do not need to be stronger than your enemy if you are smarter. Automated platforms, each no larger than a personal shuttle, floated in predetermined patterns around every human colony. They carried no large weapons. Instead, they specialized in electronic warfare, sensor disruption, and precision strikes against specific ship systems. A single platform could disable a warship's weapons while leaving life support intact. Sun-woo had designed them to fight defensively, not aggressively. They would stop an attack, not annihilate an enemy. The goal was to prove a point, not to start a genocide. How many platforms do we have operational? Her assistant asked. 30,000 across all colonies, Sun-woo replied. Each one is independent, but coordinated through quantum communication. If the Council brings 300 ships, they will face thousands of targets they cannot track. And if they bring 3,000 ships? Sun-woo looked at the display showing their network. Then they will be even more confused. Captain Gina Nam piloted her scout ship through the empty space between stars, her sensors sweeping for Council fleet movements. She had been doing this for 3 years, watching and recording how Council forces operated. She had learned their patterns, their formation preferences, and their communication protocols. What she had learned, most importantly, was that Council fleets had not updated their tactics in centuries. They relied on overwhelming numbers and outdated strategies. They broadcast their communications on frequencies that human encryption could break in minutes. Gina sent her reports to Admiral Jiwan Choi daily. Each report added to humanity's understanding of their opponent. Knowledge was as valuable as weapons. Maybe more valuable. Her sensors detected something unusual. A Council fleet had broken from its standard patrol route and was moving toward human space. Gina followed at a distance, tracking their trajectory. When she calculated their destination, she immediately sent a priority message. Admiral, Council battle fleet, moving toward New Busan. 300 ships. They are trying to hide their approach, but their electronic signature is obvious. ETA. 18 hours. Jiwan's response came quickly. Acknowledged. Continue monitoring. Do not engage. Record everything. Counselor Pelvax reviewed the data he had quietly obtained from multiple sources. The aquatic counselor had served the Council faithfully for 200 years. But recent events troubled him. The Council claimed to maintain order and peace, but their methods relied on force and intimidation. Was that truly peace? Or just the absence of open war? The information about human defensive preparations surprised him. They had built extensive networks of automated systems, but those systems were designed to disable, not destroy. Human military doctrine emphasized proportional response and minimizing casualties. This was different from Council doctrine, which emphasized overwhelming force and absolute victory. Pelvax made a decision that would have consequences. He opened a secure channel to Captain Gina Nam's scout ship. "This is Counselor Pelvax," he transmitted. "I am sending you tactical data on the fleet moving toward your colony. Disposition, command structure, and communication frequencies. Use this information wisely." Gina received the transmission with shock. A sitting Council member was providing intelligence to humanity. She verified the data's authenticity, then sent it immediately to Admiral Jiwan Choi and to New Busan's Defense Command. "This is unexpected," she transmitted back to Pelvax. "Why help us?" "Because I am beginning to think you are right," Pelvax replied, "and the Council is wrong. Good luck, Captain." The communication ended. Gina sat in her cockpit, staring at the data. The Council was fracturing faster than anyone had predicted. 17 species had made contact with human diplomats. Now a counselor was actively helping humanity. The old order was falling apart. On New Busan, engineer Yuna Bay received the warning with calm efficiency. She had prepared for this moment since the colony was founded. The defense network had been tested hundreds of times in simulation. Now it would be tested for real. "All stations, this is Defense Command," she transmitted. "We have incoming hostiles in 18 hours. Activate all platforms. Run final systems checks. Prepare for defensive operations." Around the colony, thousands of automated platforms came to life. Their computers synchronized. Their sensors calibrated. Their weapons systems loaded with specialized ammunition, designed to disable, not kill. Yuna reviewed the tactical data Pelvax had provided. It showed weak points in the Council fleet formation, command ship locations, and communication protocols. This information would make the defense much easier. She opened a channel to the colony's civilian government. "Governor, I recommend moving all non-essential personnel to underground shelters. This is precautionary. I do not expect the battle to reach the surface, but better safe." The governor agreed. Across New Busan, families moved into shelters that had been built for exactly this purpose. The colony had been designed with defense in mind. Every building had reinforced foundations. Every shelter had independent life support. Every citizen had trained for this day. Admiral Ji-won Choi watched her tactical display as the Third Fleet moved toward New Busan. Her ships maintained standard speed, showing no urgency. Let the Council see them coming. Let them know humanity was not hiding or running. Admiral, her communications officer said, we are receiving a message from Captain Kim. He says to remind you of the rules of engagement. Disable. Do not destroy. Capture. Do not kill. Prove the point. Do not prove our strength. Acknowledged, Ji-won replied. Transmit to all ships. This is not about winning a battle. This is about winning the peace that follows. Counselor Thexara stood on the command ship of his attack fleet, satisfied with his decision. The Council had been too weak, too hesitant. Someone needed to show humanity what happened when you defied galactic authority. His fleet would make an example of New Busan, and the other 16 human colonies would surrender immediately. His tactical officer reported their status. 12 hours to target, Commander. All ships report ready. Weapons, systems, charged. Marines prepared for ground assault if needed. Good, Thexara said. We will drop from FTL at the edge of their system. Standard intimidation approach. They will see 300 warships and realize their mistake. If they do not surrender immediately, we will disable their orbital infrastructure. They will learn their lesson quickly. Vidian Texas, 2000 Fauner. What Thexara did not know was that everything he said was being recorded. Captain Gina Nam's scout ship, invisible to Council sensors, followed his fleet and transmitted every communication back to human forces. The trap was set. The Council fleet was coming, and humanity was ready to teach them a lesson of their own. Counselor Thexara watched his view screen as the fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the New Busan system. 300 warships appeared in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. This was the moment when colonies surrendered. This was when species learned to respect Council authority. Scan the system, Thexara ordered. Locate their defense platforms and military vessels. His sensor officer worked for several minutes, confusion growing on his face. Commander, I am detecting unusual readings. Multiple, small objects, scattered throughout the system. They are too small to be warships, but there are thousands of them. Debris, Thexara said dismissively. Focus on military targets. Sir, I cannot locate any military vessels. The colony appears undefended, except for these small objects. Thexara smiled. The humans had not even bothered to send warships. This would be easier than expected. All ships, advance to orbital position. Prepare to broadcast. Surrender demands. The Council fleet began moving forward. Behind the scenes, events were unfolding that Thexara could not see. Engineer Yuna Bay sat in New Busan's Defense Command Center, watching the Council fleet on her displays. The platforms had already identified each enemy ship, classified them by type, and assigned specific countermeasures. The system was ready. Lieutenant Kangmin Lee, she said to her communications officer, begin broadcasting. I want every sensor in the galaxy to see what happens next. Full transparency. Kangmin activated the transmission arrays. Within seconds, the battle would be visible to anyone watching. News services, Council observers, independent species. Everyone would witness what happened when someone attacked a prepared human colony. Commander Taejun. Oh, Yuna continued. Deploy your fighters. Rules of engagement are clear. Disable only. No killing shots, unless absolutely necessary, for self-defense. Taejun led a squadron of 40 fighters that launched from hidden bays on the colony's moons. The fighters were small and fast, designed for precision strikes. Each pilot had trained for years for this moment. All wings, this is lead, Taejun transmitted. Remember, we are not here to destroy them. We are here to stop them. Make every shot count, but make every shot careful. The Council fleet continued its advance, unaware that they were already being tracked by thousands of automated systems. Thexara's sensor officer suddenly shouted an alert. "Commander, we are being targeted. Multiple locks from unknown positions. Our communication systems are experiencing interference. I cannot maintain fleet coordination." "What?" Thexara demanded. "How many ships are targeting us?" "Not ships, sir. Small platforms, thousands of them. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors did not detect them until they activated. Around the Council fleet, Yuna's defensive network came alive. Electronic warfare systems began jamming Council communications on every frequency. Targeting sensors were flooded with false data. Navigation systems received corrupted information. Within minutes, the Council fleet found itself blind, deaf. "All ships, maintain formation," Thexara ordered. But his order never reached most of his fleet. The communication channels were filled with noise. Tajun's fighters struck first. They came from multiple directions, moving too fast for Council targeting systems to track. Each fighter targeted specific systems on Council warships: weapons control, engine management, sensor arrays. Life support remained completely untouched. A Council cruiser tried to fire its main weapons at the human fighters. The weapons charged, but the firing control system suddenly locked up. The cruiser's computers had been infiltrated and shut down its most dangerous systems. The ship was intact. The crew was safe, but it could not fight. This pattern repeated across the fleet. Council ships tried to respond, but their systems betrayed them. Engines shut down at critical moments. Weapons refused to fire. Shields flickered and failed. Yet no ship was destroyed. No crew members were killed. The human forces were surgically dismantling the Council fleet's ability to fight while leaving them completely intact. Yuna watched the battle from her command center. "Status report. 80% of enemy vessels disabled," her tactical officer replied. "0 casualties on either side. Our platforms are operating at peak efficiency. Continue operations," Yuna ordered. "And someone please remind the Council commander that he can surrender any time he wants." Counselor Thexara stood on his command deck, watching his fleet fall apart around him. His own flagship had not been hit yet, but he could see what was happening to his other ships. They floated helplessly in space, their systems offline but their crews unharmed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We outnumber them. We have superior firepower. How are they defeating us?" His tactical officer spoke quietly. "Sir, they are not trying to defeat us. They are trying to teach us a lesson. Every strike is precise. Every attack is measured. They could destroy us easily, but they are choosing not to." The reality of the situation hit Thexara like a physical blow. He had brought 300 warships to intimidate a colony, and the colony was gently taking his fleet apart like a teacher correcting a child's mistake. Admiral Jiwon Choi's Third Fleet arrived at the edge of the system. Her ships remained at a distance, observers rather than participants. Jiwon watched the battle on her displays with satisfaction. "The defense network is performing better than expected," her tactical officer noted. "Scientist Sun Woo Park designed it well," Jiwon replied. "But the real genius is showing restraint. We could have destroyed that fleet in the first 5 minutes. Instead, we are demonstrating control." She opened a communication channel directly to Thexara's flagship. Her transmission went through despite all the jamming, because she used the same quantum encryption that made human communications impossible to intercept. "Counselor Thexara, this is Admiral Jiwon Choi of the United Earth Forces. I am ordering you to stand down. You have made your point. We have made ours. No one needs to die today. Withdraw your forces, and we will allow you to leave peacefully." Thexara stared at the communication in disbelief. The human admiral was offering him mercy. After he had come to attack her colony, she was giving him a chance to retreat with honor. "And if I refuse?" Thexara asked. "Then in approximately 7 minutes, all of your ships will be completely disabled," Jiwon replied calmly. "Your crews will be safe. Your ships will be intact. But you will be towed back to council space by human vessels. I imagine that would be embarrassing. The choice is yours. Thexara looked at his view screen. Across his fleet, ships were going dark one by one. The humans had made their point clearly. They could win this fight any time they wanted. They were choosing to be merciful. All ships, Thexara transmitted on the few channels still working. Cease offensive operations. Prepare for retreat. Lieutenant Kang Min Lee ensured every moment was recorded and broadcast. Across the galaxy, species watched as 300 Council warships were methodically disabled by a defensive network they never saw coming. News services reported the battle in real time. Independent observers verified what they were seeing. The Council's military reputation, built over 3,000 years, crumbled in 47 minutes. As the Council fleet began limping away from New Busan, Yuna's systems remotely repaired their critical engines and life support. The platforms had not just defeated the fleet, they had fixed them enough to go home safely. Commander Taejun-oh brought his fighters back to their hidden bases. Not a single fighter had been lost. Not a single pilot was injured. They had executed a perfect defensive operation. On the surface of New Busan, citizens emerged from shelters to watch the Council fleet retreat. Children asked their parents what had happened. Parents struggled to explain how their small colony had just defeated the galaxy's most powerful military force. Admiral Ji-won Choi sent a message to Captain Kim back on Earth. The demonstration is complete. New Busan is secure. Council fleet retreating. 0 casualties on both sides. I believe we have made our point. Doyun's response came quickly. Well done, Admiral. Now we see if they learned anything from this lesson. Across the galaxy, species that had watched the battle began asking questions. If humans could defeat a Council fleet so easily, what did that say about Council power? If one species could resist, why could others not do the same? The Council chamber would face these questions soon, and they would not have good answers. The old order was ending. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had just shown them that there was another way. The Council chamber looked different now. Where once there had been perfect order, now there was chaos. Species that had remained silent for centuries were shouting. Counselors who had always supported the Arbiter were demanding explanations. The ancient structure was collapsing under the weight of a single military defeat. High Arbiter Velmore tried to maintain control, but his voice no longer commanded absolute authority. The incident at New Busan was an unauthorized action by Counselor Thexara. The Council did not approve this military operation. You did not stop it either. Counselor Yurix clicked sharply. You allowed Thexara to take 300 ships to attack a human colony. Now the entire galaxy has seen what happened. Our military reputation is destroyed. Another counselor rose to speak, one who had never questioned Council policy before. For 3,000 years, we told ourselves we were invincible. We believed our own legends. The humans have shown us the truth. We are not invincible. We are simply untested. Pelvax, the aquatic counselor who had secretly helped humanity, spoke carefully. Perhaps the question is not why we lost, but why we fought in the first place. The humans asked only to be left alone. We demanded they submit. Who was acting unreasonably? They defied Council law. Velmore insisted. They refused our authority. What authority? Another counselor asked. The authority to restrict their expansion? The authority to control their development? Where does this authority come from? Who granted it to us? The chamber erupted in arguments. Species that had been forced to abandon colonies demanded to know why. Species that had been told to limit their technology asked who had made these rules. Species that had served the Council faithfully for centuries questioned whether they had been serving justice or tyranny. Counselor Yurix raised her voice above the noise. I call for a vote of no confidence in the High Arbiter. Silence fell. In 3,000 years, no one had ever challenged the Arbiter's authority directly. The Council operated by consensus and tradition, not by votes and challenges. But Yurix had broken the pattern. This is unprecedented, Velmore said, his feathers rising in alarm. So was humanity's refusal, Yurix replied. So was the defeat at New Busan. We live in unprecedented times. I formally call for a vote. The vote was held. When the counting finished, Velmore had lost. The High Arbiter, who had led the Council for 90 years, was removed from power. The Galactic Council, as it had existed for 3,000 years, was officially dissolved. President Eunji Han addressed the galaxy from Earth. Her message was broadcast on every channel, translated into every known language. She stood in the United Earth Government headquarters, flanked by Captain Kim and Admiral Choi. People of the galaxy, Eunji began. Humanity did not seek conflict with the Council. We asked only for the freedom to exist on our own terms. When that freedom was denied, we were forced to demonstrate our willingness to defend it. She paused, letting her words be translated and understood. But defense is not our goal. Freedom is. Not just for humanity, but for any species that wants it. Today, we announce the formation of the Galactic Compact. This is not a government. It is not an empire. It is an agreement between free species, based on simple principles. The principles appeared on screens across the galaxy as Eunji spoke them. First, no species may dictate the internal affairs of another. Second, expansion into unclaimed space is unrestricted. Third, technology sharing is encouraged but never mandatory. Fourth, military force is for collective defense only, never for conquest. 4. I-4. 4. Eunji looked directly at the camera. Any species that agrees to these principles may join the compact. There are no applications to file, no probationary periods to serve, no fees to pay. You simply agree to respect the sovereignty of others as you wish your own sovereignty to be respected. She stepped back, and Ambassador Ji-hoon Ryu took her place. He would handle the practical details of forming the new organization. The compact will establish headquarters on the neutral station of Frontier Base, Ji-hoon announced. Representatives from any interested species are welcome to attend our first assembly in 30 standard days. Come with questions. Come with concerns. Come with ideas. We will build this together. 2. Within hours, 17 species officially announced their intention to join the compact. These were the species that had secretly contacted human diplomats during the crisis. Within days, the number grew to 73. Within weeks, it reached 200. The council still existed, but only as a shadow of its former self. Species that had depended on council authority for protection realized they could find security elsewhere. Species that had been restricted by council law discovered they could develop freely under the compact. The ancient organization could not compete with the new alternative. Captain Do-yoon Kim met with former High Arbiter Velmore in a quiet garden on the neutral station. Velmore had requested the meeting, and Do-yoon had agreed. The former Arbiter looked older now, his feathers gray and his movements slow. I need to understand, Velmore said. Why did you not destroy Thexara's fleet? You had the capability. You could have made an example of us. Do-yoon sat on a bench and gestured for Velmore to join him. Because that is not who we are. On Earth, we learned a hard lesson. Authority maintained through fear eventually collapses. We have seen empires rise and fall based on military power alone. They all end the same way. But you had power, Velmore said. You demonstrated it clearly. We demonstrated capability, Do-yoon corrected. Power and capability are different things. Power is what you do with capability. We chose to stop your fleet without killing anyone. That choice was our power. 22. Velmore was silent for a long moment. The council believed we were maintaining order. We believed we were preventing chaos. Perhaps you were, Do-yoon said. For a time. But order imposed from above is not the same as peace created by consent. We hoped you would understand that. Before things went this far. I wish we had, Velmore admitted. Commander Heijin Park oversaw the formation of the compact's security framework. She designed it as a truly defensive force, not an army of conquest. Each member species contributed ships and personnel, but command rotated every 6 months. No single species could use the compact's military for their own purposes. Trade Minister Wu Jinli negotiated the first economic agreements under the compact. Without council restrictions, species began developing technologies they had been told to abandon. Trade routes opened between species that had never been allowed to communicate directly. The galactic economy transformed within months. Dr. Minho Kang published his research on how council restrictions had suppressed technological development across the galaxy. His work became the foundation for the compact's scientific exchange program. Species began sharing research freely, and progress accelerated dramatically. 1 year after humanity declined the Council's ultimatum, the galaxy was completely different. The compact included 400 species. The Council still governed about 300 species, but its authority was voluntary now, not enforced. Captain Do-Yoon Kim stood in the observation deck of Compact headquarters, watching ships arrive for the annual assembly. Vessels from hundreds of species floated in organized patterns, their crews preparing to discuss the Compact's future. His communication device chimed. A message from Admiral Ji-Won Choi. So, was it worth refusing to back down? Do-Yoon smiled and typed his response. Ask me in another 50 years. But so far, yes. Commander Taejun-Oh walked up beside him, also watching the ships. My father asked me if I was scared during the battle at New Busan. I told him no. I was too focused on following orders. Taejun. And now? Do-Yoon asked. Now I am scared, Taejun admitted. We changed the galaxy. What if we made mistakes? What if the compact fails? Then we learn from those mistakes and try again, Do-Yoon said. That is what humans do. We fail, we learn, we improve. The Council forgot how to do that. They believed they were perfect, so they never changed. We know we are not perfect. That knowledge keeps us honest. Envoy Dae-Hyun Shin arrived with 3 alien representatives. These were the same 3 who had met him in the cafe a year ago. They were now senior members of the Compact's diplomatic corps. We have 17 more species interested in joining, Dae-Hyun reported. They want to know if the Compact will help defend them if the Council retaliates. The Compact will defend any member who is attacked, Do-Yoon confirmed. But I doubt the Council will retaliate. They are focused on keeping the members they still have, not on forcing back those who left. One of the alien diplomats, the cat-like being who had questioned humanity's resolve a year ago, spoke thoughtfully. You changed more than just the Council. You changed how we think about authority itself. For 3,000 years, we accepted that someone had to be in charge. You showed us that cooperation works better than control. We showed you what you already knew, Do-Yoon replied. You just needed someone to act first. President Eun Ji-han addressed the Compact Assembly, her message optimistic but realistic. We have accomplished much in 1 year. But this is just the beginning. Building a society based on consent, rather than control, is harder than maintaining order through force. It requires constant effort, constant communication, and constant respect. She looked at the assembled representatives. There will be disputes. There will be disagreements. Some species will leave the Compact. Others will try to manipulate it for their own benefit. This is normal. This is expected. The question is not whether we will face challenges, but whether we will face them together. The Assembly voted to continue the Compact for another year. The vote was unanimous. Ambassador So-Yeon-Yoon sent her final intelligence report. The Council is stabilizing under new leadership. They have adopted some compact principles, including limiting their territorial claims. Former Arbiter Velmore has been advising them on reforms. The galaxy is reaching equilibrium. Lieutenant Kang-Min Lee archived the footage of the New Busan battle. It would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations, not as an example of how to win a battle, but as an example of how to win without destroying your enemy. Scientist Sun Woo Park was already designing the next generation of defensive systems. The platforms at New Busan worked perfectly, she told her team. But we cannot rest. If we want to maintain peace, we must always be prepared to defend it. Captain Gina Nam received an unexpected message from Counselor Pelvax. Thank you for proving me right. I took a risk helping you, but seeing what the galaxy has become, I know it was the correct choice. Perhaps our species will meet as equals in the compact one day. Gina smiled and sent a response. You are welcome anytime, Counselor. Captain Do-Yoon Kim returned to his quarters late that night. He looked at the data streaming across his displays, showing the compact's growing membership, increasing trade, and accelerating scientific progress. Humanity had not exploded the Council's panic. They had simply refused to let fear dictate their future. In doing so, they had given the galaxy permission to do the same. And that, Do-Yoon thought, was worth everything.